What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another video here on the 7.3 Powerstroke restoration. In today's video, I want to go ahead and get these rockers and cab corners done. As you can see, the front pillars are ate off, the inner and outer rockers and the cab corner are all looking really rough. This will be the first time I actually put a front pillar section on one of these trucks, so we'll see how bad that is. This cab corner doesn't really look that bad, but as you can see, I'm about to kick it and show you that it's actually a lot worse than it looks. So the first thing I'm going to need to do is pop this rubber plug out, get that out of the way so we don't mess it up. These trim pieces just pull right off. Mine doesn't really stay in there very good anymore. The clips are worn out. And then pull this rubber weather stripping back out of the way, and then we're ready to get at these spot welds. There's 4 next to each end and then a whole bunch of them on the top. There's just these little dots right here. The bottom's actually so crusty, I'm just going to cut it off with the grinder first instead of grinding the welds. Right here's what I like to use. This is a cheapo from Harbor Freight belt sander, and I have a little 36 grit sanding pad. These can actually be bought at any painter supply. They're a 3M product, and I'm going to use these to rip down those welds really fast. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and get you guys set up on probably a time lapse, and let's start ripping into this thing. Right, and now you guys can see the extent of the corrosion that was starting on the back side of this cab corner. And as you can see, it stops down there, and where I cut is up here. There's not rust anywhere near there, meaning it's gonna be nice and solid for us to be able to weld to. As you guys can see, these were fighting me. So a trick I use sometimes is just to make a cut and get our panel off so we're left with just the spot welds. And I'm gonna go ahead and get in there with the chisel and the hammer and get this all cleaned up, and I'll bring you guys back. All right, so just a few minutes later, we've gone ahead and cleaned everything up. I'm gonna have to measure this and go get a plate of steel that I'll have go from somewhere up here down to the bottom for a new inner rocker, so I have something to weld to. And with that being said, before it gets too late, I wanna get this other side cut off all the way. So I'm probably just gonna set you guys up on a time lapse and rock this side out. All right, so here's where we ended up. If I'm being honest, this side's stressing me out because of that front pillar. I've never had to do one of those before, and I'm really scared I'm gonna have to pull the door and fender, especially because Ford, back when they made these trucks, was a bunch of idiots. They didn't think to put a plug here, so you have to unhook everything and feed it out, including the wiring that was a pain to install for my '08 mirror conversion. So I'm just gonna leave that for tomorrow. And in the meantime, I wanna see if I could get this thing at least close to done. So I'm probably gonna set you guys up on another time lapse. For those of you who are wondering how I'm gonna do this, basically our first step, as you can see, we cut out the inner rockers where needed. We got this piece of 14 gauge steel, which I'm gonna go on ahead and get clamped up and weld a solid bead along there with it even with the bottom of where the inner rocker normally should be. And the reason I'm doing this is because if you get into replacing those lower cab support pieces, that's a bunch of laying underneath there on the ground just to put in OEM inner rockers. You're gonna have $500 in extra metal and 3 extra days of agony underneath your truck for why. So every time I do these, I just use a piece of steel. So I have something to weld these. I drill holes in these and clamp it up and weld the holes shut. And then this cab corner, when I fit these up, I'm gonna hold it up and trim it to be as close to even with that as I can. And then the excess piece on the top, I'll cut a little bit off and put it in here as a backer. That way I can have a gap and still be able to weld it easily. So you could say basically, I'll cut the cab corner off here, and then of the upper piece, I'll cut a piece about that big off to have that middle strip to go in between. So with that being said, I'll get plucking away at this side, and I'll talk to you guys in a little bit. I would open the doors to get you some better lighting, but it's really windy outside. And here you can see how these came out. If some of you guys are wondering what I use for these, to be honest, anything you find online of these black aftermarket panels are all the same. A lot of them are from eBay or Amazon. The other side, actually the whole driver's side, is complete leftover parts from other trucks, so it's all different kinds of stuff. Anything you find is pretty much the same. The bare metal rocker on the other side is from Mill Supply, but I don't even know where these other ones are from. They're just randoms on Amazon or eBay. So you can see this side's all buttoned up. And I should mention the next step I'm gonna do is just gonna be off camera. I plan on making the next video about doing the body work on this truck. I wanna go ahead and I'll grind down these welds here and do a coat of Duraglass first. That way, if there's any pinholes or imperfections, it'll make my body work waterproof. And then I'll sand that down real quick and then use actual, just regular body filler over it to make it look pretty. So here you can see how this side came out. My apologies for the lighting. This gap was a lot smaller, but there still is a gap with a backing plate in there. And then you can see our bare metal rocker. Don't worry, I spray painted the back side with some weld through primer first, since I didn't want it to be all shiny metal under there. And when I'm done, I plan on getting some oil and spray it all up in these inner rockers. And then up here you can see this front section. Not my prettiest welds. It'll hold though. And that'll be my first time actually replacing that front pillar section, which it kind of sucks. The right way to do it is to put that whole piece, which would be taking the fender and the door, and then I'd have to deal with all the wiring. So it was more worth it just to do that. It's gonna be a little more work when I'm actually doing my body filler over it. I'd rather do that than take the whole front end apart though. So with that being said, that'll wrap up today's video, and I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next one.